This week, we've listened to your feedback, and that's why, by pushing our engine to its limits, we are bringing you an episode that is 3 times the size of its predecessor. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fish Tank. I'm Garrett Hallfish. As you may or may not know, something pretty big is going on tomorrow. Fallout 4 is finally coming out. I know it's a game that a lot of you have been waiting for. It's certainly one that I've been waiting for. It's going to be pretty big. For those who don't know, Fallout 4 is a giant open world RPG set in a post-apocalyptic kind of nuclear wasteland. So for this week, in memory of Fallout 4, I'd like to talk about the good and the bad of open world games. So right off the bat, these worlds are just getting a little too big for my taste. The more powerful technology we get, the bigger worlds we're able to create. And bigger is not necessarily better. Bigger just means that it'll take more time to get to your destination, which isn't necessarily fun. It's interesting and it creates these really cool worlds, but sometimes too big can be a bad thing. Quite famously with the Witcher franchise, they get bigger and bigger each time. Then you start to lose the ability to do everything. There's more missions to do, there's more things to collect, there's more things to see, and unless you're devoting your entire time to that game, you're probably not going to finish it. I mean, even if you are devoting all your time, it's going to be a lot of non-stop playing. So either you're not going to get a lot of games that year, or you're just pretty much gonna have to get to a certain point and then just say goodbye, or just stick to the main missions, something to get you through that game. So an open world being too big doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be physically too big, it can just feel too big. Specifically, when I played Jack 2, the problem there was that there were just too many people walking around, too many people zipping around in flying cars, and if you wanted to get around somewhere, you pretty much had to go at their speed, because once you try to go faster, I mean, the slightest touch with another flying car and your car would blow up and you'd either die or you'd lose the mission or you'd be near death and have to find a new car. It made getting around that world very slow and very cumbersome, and oftentimes your missions were from one side of the map to the other side of the map, and that part just wasn't fun for me. The actual story and the gameplay, besides that, I actually really enjoy, but that kind of structure was just something that I was not a huge fan of. Now on the opposite end of the spectrum, if that world is too big, the easiest way to fix that problem is to make that world fun to travel in. A recent example of that is with Sunset Overdrive. You don't really want to be on the ground in that game, but once you get off the ground, you're either grinding on rails, you're hopping from cars, swinging from things, and that world is a blast to go through. I mean, you're just constantly moving, they don't want you to stop, and somehow it really works for that game, and it just keeps you wanting to go on. Another example, I guess, would be Infamous Second Son. Going around those worlds, you feel incredible, and with Infamous Second Son, you feel like you have incredible power. I mean, at first they have you going through vents to get to the top of buildings really quick. Pretty soon you can run up the walls. They're just giving you all these powers to make going around the world that much easier and that much less of a chore, to make you actually want to just go and explore. Now, one of my favorite things to see when I'm in an open world game is when you're going from point A to point B to continue that story. If on the way, all of a sudden you get a ping of another mission over here, or all of a sudden something tells you to do something, that can be really satisfying. Especially Batman Arkham City does a great job of this. And where you're trying to go to the main mission, and all of a sudden you hear a phone ring, you're like, what the hell is that? You haven't heard a phone ringing at all. And so you fly over, pick up the phone, and there's Zaz on the other line. And he's like, dude, someone's gonna die if you don't get here in 1 minute and 30 seconds, so you better find my other phone. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I can't go to the main story anymore. So you zip over, and you're trying to get to the other phone, and you have to locate it, you put on your little bat sense, and then you find it, and you pick it up, and it's like, ah, man, you got me. Well, let's try it again. And you can keep doing that back and forth throughout the game. Those kind of missions where they just kind of grab your attention away from the main mission, I actually really enjoy those. Not everyone does, but I think it's a great way to make the world seem more like it's a living, breathing world. So not every side quest is a good side quest. Point being, sometimes they're just not enough variations of side quests. Recently I was playing Infamous, the original one on the PS3, and the problem I had there is there were only about 5 or 6 variations of your different side missions, and that kind of made for a bland experience. I mean, it was either like, destroy this bus, fight these many guys, destroy 15 cameras off this building. And to do that over and over and over again kind of drains you by the time you get to the end of the game. A more recent example would be Batman Arkham Knight. It seems to be pretty split even between people who like the tank missions and people who didn't care for them. I actually enjoyed them, but I can see how they definitely do get a little old after you've done many of them throughout the game. The problem I had with it was that like the Deathstroke mission, spoilers for people who really want to go back and play that game. When you're fighting Deathstroke throughout the game, like, oh man, it's like ramping up that he's like the only one that can match you. And in Arkham Origins, another game, like you had a crazy awesome boss fight where it was a lot of quick time events, but it was done so well in that like you felt like you were fighting and meeting your match. Whereas in this game, Arkham Knight, it literally repeats a battle that you had with the Arkham Knight. It repeats it the same exact way, only slightly harder. And that just didn't seem like, one, it didn't seem like a way that you would be fighting Deathstroke, and two, you're just reusing a boss battle. What's up with that? Now if you're like me, I try to 100% all my games, mainly with like collecting everything. I don't try to get all the trophies. But it turns to be a problem, especially with open world games, when I'm trying to finish my backlog, and they take a long time to get all those collectibles. So there are good and bad ways to do collectibles. A good way, the Batman games. I know we just talked about them, but they're Riddler trophies. I think that's a very good way to make a collectible fun. Because one, by collecting all the Riddler trophies, you then can face the Riddler at the end. But then, like, to collect every Riddler trophy, there's puzzles, there's riddles you have to solve. It makes it more interactive, so you're not just, oh, there it is, let's grab it. Another good example would be the data graphs from Infamous 2. They improved upon these from the first game. And so you'd be going around town and all of a sudden you would see this, this bird icon on your little mini-map. And so you would just go, you'd see the building it's circling around, climb on top of the building, see the flying bird, and you would zap it and collect the data graph. And these were kind of cool because one, you're just going around and then it's just a little side thing that you can do. You don't have to do it, but they're pretty easy to get. There's only about 30 of them, which is also nice because when you space it across the game, you're not wasting that much time on it. And all it does is it gives you some background on this story, and it just, I don't know, you can listen to it and you can keep playing the game. You don't have to go into a menu to listen to it. And I don't know, it just makes it that much more enjoyable. So a bad, probably one of the worst examples of collectibles in open world games, the Assassin's Creed franchise. What are you doing? The problem there is that not only are there tons and tons of collectibles from like, oh, let's collect all these feathers, let's collect all these pieces of paper, let's collect all these pieces of the Animus. There's so many things to collect in that game. I mean, they're in like the hundreds. It's ridiculous, to the point where when you discover all the collectibles by climbing at the top of a high point, your map will just be riddled with collectibles to get. And some of them are pretty interesting to get. You'll get some exposition, you'll unlock some costumes, but a lot of them don't really do anything. You're just like, all right, filling up a percentage point. And that's not a good way to do it. I don't really care for those games to begin with, so I may be a little harsh, but I don't know, it's just like, collecting all those things is something where if you really gotta do it, I suggest putting on a podcast, putting on some music, and then just zoning out. So that about wraps it up for some of my favorite and least favorite things about open world games. What are some of yours? Please let me know in the comments below. You can also find us on Twitter at NerdMuchCom. And if you'd like to like us on Facebook, you can do so via the description below. Please, for the love of God, go buy Fallout 4. It comes out tomorrow. What are you doing with yourself? And that's it for this week. I'll see you all next time. So another problem that open world games tend to have is that they tend to have a lot of glitches. Now I personally really enjoy these because it can be pretty funny when after hours in this world, especially a really serious one, all of a sudden a horse then flies by or a carriage just freaks out and goes into a wall. These kind of things I really enjoy. Other people tend not to like them. It ruins their experience. So for what it's worth, enjoy.